Hello, Natroners, and welcome back to another episode of VFX with Natron. So, today we're doing a Valentine's Day theme title thing, and yeah, we should first look at what today's goal is going to be, because it's going to be a tricky one today. Today's goal. Alright, so originally today's goal, or today's live stream, was actually supposed to happen a few days ago, but we ran into some problems, and I didn't know what was causing the problems, and I was beating my head against the wall, and it turned out that both times I had to restart the live stream twice, and it turns out that it was a bug. And it was an awful bug. Anyway, before we continue, I need to just pop over here and point out, you're probably looking at this saying, what the heck is this? Why has he got a font on the screen as opposed to Natron? Well, the reason is that we're going to be using a font today. It's called Tangerine, and it's available at thefont.com, and you can see it right here. This is a font we're going to be using in today's thing for our text. So you just need to know, if you want to follow along, the link is in the description. And right, so let's hop over into Natron and get going. So yes, today we have a bug, and I'm also gonna because of the bug, I actually managed to come up with some really interesting solutions to it, and some other really interesting tips, because I was like, there's got to be a better way of doing some of this stuff. So we're going to start off. I also want to point out two other things. Well, one other thing really is that this is also going to incorporate this. The whole goal of this, the whole reason this came about, was because I wanted to do a Valentine's theme for Valentine's Day, for using Gimmick, because Gimmick has a plugin, or one of the Gimmick filters, we'll call it. It's really a node in Natron, but one of the gimmick filters or effects is hearts, and it has there's two types of hearts that Gimmick has. It has a there's one that's supposed to be actually creates like a heart, like a Valentine's heart, and I thought, it's perfect, I'll use that today, but it doesn't work inside of Natron. And the other one that it has is actually called Hearts, which creates a bunch of little bitty hearts, and we're actually going to be using that, as you saw in the thing. You can't figure out where that's from. But because we can't use the heart, the core heart thing, we're going to actually have to create it on our own, which means we have to use the Roto node, and this is where things got nasty to me, and we're going to be shooting Natron, I guarantee it, because, it's going to be doing some nasty stuff. So, with no further ado, we are going to pop over and type in Roto, because I want to do the Roto, address this, and talk about the things. All right, so we're going to create a heart, and we're going to create this using the Roto node. Now, there's 1,000,001 ways we could make a heart outside of using the Roto node. We could make it as an SVG and so forth, and bring it in and so forth. But I want to do this inside of Natron, because it's a heart. Heart's should be an easy thing, and the Roto node is a simple enough shape to make. So how are we going to make it? Let's first of all maximize this. I didn't want to do that. Let's get rid of that and make sure. All right, spacebar. We want to go over here, and we want to use an ellipse tool, and we're going to click in the upper left hand corner, and we're going to drag down. Now, as we drag down, you'll notice that this stretches into an ellipsoid. What we want to do is hold down our shift key, and that is going to, as we're dragging this, don't let go of your left mouse button. As we're dragging this out, just drag it out. It just needs to be approximately the size of our screen. Now, before we continue, I'm going to show you something else we're going to do, because Natron does not have any way of aligning things inside of it by default. So there's a couple things we're going to want to do, a couple things we're going to want to enable, and I'm also going to show you an interesting way of lining this up well. All right, so the first thing we need to do is Natron, we want to nudge some points around, and Natron actually has the ability to nudge stuff around, but you can't do it, or it doesn't do it by default. It doesn't save with the preferences. When you close out of Natron, it resets. I might have it re-enabled because I was doing it earlier and I still have that project open. It may not because I'm running a second instance of it. But if we go to the open our preferences, go to the shortcut editor, start flipping down the carrots for this until we get down to the one that says Roto Viewer Interface, and we scroll down, and sure enough, right here, it is not. It's reset itself, even though in my other project it is not reset. We can see here it'll show up with these like boxes. At least under Windows it does this. Well, all you have to do is for this is you click on clear, and then for nudge bottom, what I recommend for mine is I use Control Shift and then I hit the down arrow, and then I hit validate, and that puts it in there. And we're going to just do the same thing we're going to clear it, hit Control Shift left arrow for left, Control Shift right arrow for clear that, try that again. For right, Control Shift right arrow, validate, there we go. Clear this one, Control Shift up, and then wait, and hit validate and save it. All right, so that will allow us to nudge these points around. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we want to shape this into a heart. And last time I was futzing around because there's no snap into grid inside of Natron. But I actually came up with a real interesting idea for how we can do this. If we go over to our Roto node with it selected and we just type in checkerboard, we can pull up our checkerboard and place a checkerboard right on top of our Roto node. You'll see that it's literally on top of it. And when we actually, if we drag around it, it's not going to, why is it no? Oh, because we don't have the Roto up. There we go. All right, I was like, it should be showing. Just make sure you double click on your Roto node to pull it back up. With the Roto node, what we're going to do is we're going to select around it, and we're going to pull it over. All right. And so the first thing we need to do is we need to line this so that it's in the center of the screen. Now you can see that our Roto, our grid is following our Roto node exactly. So we actually have this we need to reverse this. We're going to actually take it and we're going to make the background for it so that it matches our view. That way, when we start playing with this, we have a fixed point of reference. All right. So we're going to bring this up maximum view size, take this, and we're going to go in here and we're going to just grab this center point. And now it might be hard to see that it's very small and white right here, but that's the center point of our Roto. I also want to point out a nice little tip. One of the biggest problems people have with manipulating rotos in Natron is they go to move it, they've made a selection, and they go to move it, and a lot of times if you just click it, if you don't click right smack dab close to the center in this little area right here, you will accidentally or deselect your Roto. I'm going to select the Roto like so, but here's a little trick. If you click up here, you'll see this thing called sticky box button. If you click on that, now you'll notice that no matter where I am inside of my Roto, I can move my Roto around and I don't have to worry about deselecting it by accident. So that's really useful. However, we're trying to be very precise here, so I really want us to get very close to the center point anyway. So I'm going to move this down so we can see that little cross in the center there. And one of the things down here, right where my mouse is right now, you'll see some coordinates, and we're going to want to get it so that those coordinates, when the mouse is right over this crosshair, we're going to want to get it basically very close to dead center of the screen. And the way we're going to do that is actually part of the reason we're using the grid is because, well, it just so happens that these yellow crosshairs, or where the yellow is, happens to be the dead center of the screen. So if we bring this in and we just zoom in here really, really, really close, now we're way sub-pixel, but I want to just get it as close as possible to this point right here, the bottom left-hand corner of this center pixel, so that it matches up, and that should give us, or that should put this at basically 0, 0 on, or not 0, 0, excuse me. That should place the Roto at a 960, because this is an HD Let's make sure we fit this. We can see that it says it's HD, which means it's 1920 by 1080. All right, which means that that's the halfway point of 1920 is 960, and vertically it's 540. All right. So now that we've got it lined up, we also are going to be we're going to be pulling some points around now. Yeah, we're gonna first, let's try and get this. No, we're gonna first we'll first manipulate things and then worry about it. All right. So how are we going to manipulate this? Well, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna deselect, because now I've got it set up so that we're moving around, or we can move the entire thing, and I don't want to do that. So I want to grab that, and I'm going to bring this center point down using the arrows. I'm going to just hold down. Whoop! I'm going to make sure I have it selected. There we go, and hit the Control Shift. Helps if I hit Control Shift. There we go. We start nudging it down, and we're going to bring this down till it gets about 3.5, 4 down. Well, no, we'll do 3.5. No, we'll take it all the way down here. Get a nice. I want to get it at an intersection, so it's right there. Then we're going to take this, the right, or the left-hand one, excuse me, and we're going to bring it up 3 units up, 3 units over. So it's right like there, and approximately. This doesn't have to be perfect. Now, for the other side, what we're going to do is hold Control, and we're going to bring it up 3 units up, 3 units over, approximately right about there, and that gets us our heart. Is that enough of a heart? You know what? I think I want to bring it up 1 more unit. I'm going to bring it up just 1 more, just to make sure that that really looks like a heart. There we go. Now, for the bottom, what we're going to do is take the bottom points, and we're going to grab these, and we're going to bring this up and bring it up to, we'll take it up to, I don't want it to be too far up, because we want the base of this to be wide enough so that when we scale it up 3 times, it will envelop the entire screen, and that will make sense in a little bit. But I do want to zoom this in and try and get it as close to this point right here as possible. All right, and then we'll grab the other one. Whoop, grab the other handle. Hold down Control again to break the point. Make sure you're holding down Control when you drag that around. That may not be showing up on the keyboard shortcuts, but I'm holding down Control right now as I do that. That's the important thing. So holding Control, I drag it and I line it up, and it's good enough. All right, so there we go. There we go. We have a heart, or something that looks a lot like a heart. But now our heart is not centered in the screen. We don't need our grid anymore, or our checkerboard anymore. That's our grid in Natron. Actually, you know what? I think I want to bring it back for a minute, just because I want to, I'm going to keep it there, and we're going to select these points, and now we're going to see the real center point, or we should see the center point. Of these. All right, it looks like the center is right there. Oh, but it's showing the center point of the, all right, it's showing the center point. I was like, that's weird. It's not showing the actual center point. Okay, the reason it's not showing this what looks like the center point is actually the center point of everything, including the handles going up. So we're really not getting the actual center point of relative to the top of this. So we're going to actually do this a slightly different way. We're going to hit F and fit that there. And we're going to just talk about the point where this is why we're going to be shooting Natron today. It's because let's just turn this off so we can see this better. First of all, let's enable our RGB channels so that we can actually render this white. And you know, I'm looking at that, I'm actually not overly crazy about the way that heart's looking. I think it could look prettier. We're going to do one more adjustment. We're going to bring it over 1 more. Why not? We'll bring it over here. And I just, I didn't hold down Control, so we're going to have to bring it up. There. 4 over, 4 up. About there. That's good enough. That's better. I like that better. Definitely. All right. Anyway, so what is the deal? So the problem we face is when we go over to the transform node, or the transform properties for this. And by the way, in order to transform things, you have to select an element inside of Natron. So we can select the layer, we can select the ellipse. The ellipse happens to be what our actual roto is of. That's our actual heart. And we can actually see that this is our value. We're actually at 911 units high. That's how tall it is. All right. So our halfway point would be halfway through or halfway up this. So what we want to do is move this up so that is actually at the center point. Well, when we hit reset center right now, if we hit reset center, it puts our center point at that point. But if we start manipulating something, for example, let's say I want to scale this like so, and then I scale it back, and then I click off of this, or I click on layer 1 and then click back and do stuff. You'll notice that right away what happened. Notice our center point reset to 0 on the x-axis. This was plaguing us. Natron, congratulations. We don't want that. That's not supposed to happen. That's actually a mistake. And a lot of people might be saying to themselves, hey, what's going on here? Why is that happening? It turns out, I don't know why it's actually happening. I thought maybe, I thought it's a draw node. Maybe it's because it's a draw node. I'll have to change these things. It turns out it doesn't matter whether you have a background put into it. It doesn't matter anything. It will reset itself to 0 on X almost all the time. And it rarely doesn't do that. I got lucky when I made this first time because it didn't do that. But how do we fix that? Well, it's easy actually, but before we fix it, we're going to reset the center. You'll notice that our center point has reset to basically 960, but our vertical point is off. Now, this was another thing, was how do we get our vertical point to go up? And I found an actually really interesting thing. There's actually a way in here. This little extra matrix here is really useful. We can actually use this, and we could, in theory, even with this off, we could fix this by just doing our entire centering inside of here instead. So if we, for example, reset all this to its default, which you can see, by the way, when I reset it to the default, it goes to 960 by 540, which is what we want, until we go and we scale something up, and then we go over here and we move around, and then we come back over here, and then I'll go over there, and I'll come back and I bring it back down, and now it seems to be working just dandy, but that's actually not what it's actually wrong. So anyway, let's zero this out because it's gonna zero. Oh, it's giving me lip. That's it, Natron. Give me lip. 0, 0. All right, so it defaults to 0, 0. I just wanted to point out, we can go into this extra matrix over here, and these far two are the vertical. So if we put in 960 here, lo and behold, that offsets it by 960, right? So what that would mean, all right, let me explain. We want this to be dead center. We currently are off by a specific amount. All right. So if we reset the center here, you can see that this is off by a certain amount. We want to, all right, we're going to put this back to, let's zero this back out. Hold on. Oi, reset center. Now it's all screwed up. There we go. All right. It's doing 960 again. It's just not lining up. But what we can do is we can compensate. Okay, the amount this is off here. I originally tried offsetting it other ways, and it was constantly. I originally had thought the problem was that the transform node. It turns out that we can actually offset it vertically here and fix it without using a transform node underneath it if we want to, but it still doesn't solve the problem with the center X here. So we really want to. First of all, we want to fix this center so that it is at the points that we want, as opposed to where it is. And the way we can fix this is we actually want to offset this. I want to offset our shape by the difference between this and our view. So we take this, if we take this number, copy it, and now you can't for some reason do math in this particular field, in the center field for some reason, but if we pull up a calculator like this one and we do 540, which is our vertical resolution, minus, and then the value we just copied from there, and we hit equals, we get how much it's off by, and we can just take that and copy it, or well, I have to actually double click it here and select it here because the calculator I happen to use. Anyway, if we paste that value into here and make sure, by the way, you need to make sure you have the ellipse actually selected or this won't actually enter. So you need to select it, hit paste, hit return. Oops, wait a minute, wrong one. That was that's the horizontal. Sorry. The one below it is the vertical. The other ones are skews and all kinds of things. So there we go. That has offset it. And you can see that by offsetting it by 82, what it's done is it's actually centered it relative to our entire screen. So now it's actually dead center on the screen. And if we actually hit reset center now, or if we were to hit the reset center, it would actually reset it to the actual center point. And we wind up with it at 540, which is where we want it, and everything's working fine, and don't ask me why, it works now, and it's going to work mostly properly at this point from now on. But it will break. It's still going to break. In fact, look right here, see, it's broken. The X reset itself, and the second we start doing transformations, it will break again because I deselected it and then I reselected it. And that is the problem. Again, bug in Natron. This is a big, horrible bug. So how do we fix this in a permanent way? We right click, we hit set expression, and we just simply put 960 here. We're not even going to do anything else. We're going to just enter it with an expression. And we're going to set an expression for the other one just to ensure that that doesn't break as well. And we're going to put 540 there. And by forcing it, what this is going to do is it's going to force Natron every frame. Natron's going to say, oh, there's an expression there. The expression says to put it at 960. Okay, I'm going to put it at 960. And now it won't reset. And thus we have solved our problem. And it will be happy from now on. And we can click off of it. We can, I can click over here. I can click back. As we can see, it's still 960. It doesn't reset. Our center point is fixed, and that is important for this entire effect to work properly, because one of the things we want to be able to do, one of the reasons that we want to use a vector is because, something that's vector based like a Roto, is because we can scale this up to 3 times its size, and we can see that our HUD is actually bigger than our actual view, and so we can take advantage of that. However, I've come to the conclusion, for time purposes, we're actually going to keep this back at the original size. I wanted to do this, and it's going to alter some things. It will change things in the overall look. This is going to look a lot like what I had, but we're going to have to improvise on a couple things. Just because I want to make sure this is rendering faster, and the bigger it is, the more it has to rasterize, and the more math Natron's going to have to do. But I highly recommend, you can do this your own way, or if you're not happy, you can up the resolution, and it works. And you can change it if you want to do it in 4K instead. All right, so how much time have we wasted on this silly thing? 25 minutes on that one stupid problem. But we have solved it, and we have a solution that actually functions, and I wanted to make sure that that was covered and explained, because that caused some problems in the previous attempts at doing this live stream. So, there. And now everybody knows. So we're going to hit a transform node. And why do we have this transform node? Because just in case we want to offset it, the problem is that I want it to be, I don't like messing with roto nodes. We might want to add other things onto it. I want to transform, transform nodes do a lot of other things. We can do motion blur and all kinds of things. So if we ever decided to move this, actually move it, we would want that. So now, the next thing I need to do, all right, we're gonna just cut to the chase. We're not gonna do, for right now, we're gonna skip a lot of the fancies and get into the meat and potatoes of how to create the tunnel style effect. And then we're going to go back and stitch in some bits and pieces afterwards, because the other bits are some of it's stuff we've done in the past, but to make this look more three-dimensional and so forth. First, let's create a card 3D. So we're going to do a card 3D, and when we do our card 3D, we're going to go back to the first frame. Let's make sure I want to make sure our animation is actually happening on the first frame. Be careful when you're doing rotos. If you don't set your keyframe, or if you modify it on non-zero keyframes, your point for your spine interpolation your points might move around, and it could cause problems later on. I don't know if we were not on. I wasn't paying attention to that, but just so you know, that could be a problem. Note that we should have done that at frame 1. All right. So how's our animation going to work? What we're going to do is we're going to first of all set our keyframes, or our frame count, our frame skipping, to 24 frames. Now, one of the things I did in the original one that we're going to modify is I started it off at the very first frame, and I didn't like it because it didn't give the title enough time to really sort of sit and give it any presence. So we're going to actually move a full second in, so that there's time for the things to sort of start happening. And we're going to move this back 4 units. All right. 2, 3, 4. All right. So it's like that. And then we're going to hit set a key. And then we're going to move it. Wait a minute. We do want to make it bigger. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. Oh, no. That's right. It's fine. No. We can. I know how we're going to do this. All right. So what we're going to do is then we're going to go 3 frame or 3 seconds forward to frame 97, and we're going to set this, instead of 1 would be normal. We want to actually because we're not going to be scaling this up 3 times. What we're going to actually do is instead we're going to bring this very close, but not to 0. So we're going to bring it up to, or down, I should say, to 0.1. And when we put it to 0.1, we can see that brings it really close to the camera. And technically it's going to be, it's softened the edges, but it's not going to be hopefully a big problem for this. It is going to change the way that some of our numbers calculate out to. All right, so what does that look like? If we hit play, and let's fit that and take a look at it, we can see that causes our it starts off, it's not doing anything, and then it zooms in. All right. What we're going to do is on our curves, we're going to click on our curves, and we're going to select our translate Z. We're going to right click on this, and we're going to go to interpolation, and we're going to, just for the first point, to Catmull ROM. Interpolation, Catmull ROM interpolation. And the reason we want to keep it Catmull ROM and not we don't want to do the last one is because we don't want this to continue past the camera. We want this to wash out the camera with white. All right, that's very important for this effect. So how are we going to create the actual tunnel effect? Well, we're just going to use time offsets. We're going to go hit here, and we're going to do a time offset, which is the first thing, and for some reason it didn't add it, or add it directly connected to it, but that's okay. We can connect it up, and then we'll view that. And in order to view this, in order to see what's going on, we're going to let's go back to the first one. We can sort of offset this manually. It's going to be probably negative like 4 frames or 5 frames. I don't know. But we want to have some way of viewing this. So for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to add in a merge node, and we want it connected there. And it doesn't really matter the order that we do these, but for right now, we're going to take this merge node, put the time offset into the A input, and change the merge node to difference. Okay. And that way we can see, there it is, difference. And that way we can sort of see where it is. And we should start, this should take up about full frame or close to full frame, around frame 84. All right, the black one The black image there is our original, is the original heart, and the bigger white one is the actual is the time offset. So that's what our spacing is going to be when it's close. I'm pretty good with that. -4 looks to, or -4 frames looks to be correct. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that time offset, and all we're going to do is replicate that. So we're gonna just hit Alt, and then hit Alt and K. Now we should have a thing, and we're just going to plug it into the original or into the previous one and wire that in here to the next input, and we can see that adds another one. And so what we want to do is go back to the beginning of this entire thing, and we want to just keep adding time offset nodes until this effect makes it all the way back, so that one of them is past the camera. All right, so let's keep going. Let's see how many. I think we're going to need 12. So all we have to do is take this one. We can just hit Alt K, or excuse me, Alt C. Now that I have it, all I have to do is select this one and hit Alt C, because if you hit Alt K on the original, it could wind up in some weird place. Who knows? But by holding down Alt and then hitting C with the actual offset node, we can just put down a whole bunch of them. And let's see, that's one. Doesn't really matter which order we put them. They will, and it doesn't matter which order we connect them up in either, because they will all ultimately just do the same thing. All right, so let's see, how many do we have? We have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm gonna, just for time's sakes, I'm gonna connect this one up over here. This one here, and this one here. So we got 6 going over, 7, 8, 9, right? 6, 9. All right. So Alt C, 10, 11, 12. All right. So we've got 12 of them, and I'm 99% sure that is going to bring us all the way up. Now, some people would argue that you should not do what we're going to do, because we're going to using these as layers, but this is an effect. We're creating an effect. We're not doing more than what we got here. We're going to be just doing this over and over and over again. So we're just taking this, and I'm going to pull this along with us as we this merge node. We're just going to connect each input 5, then we're going to take input 6, input 7, and we can see 8. We may have to actually do more than this, or adjust this a little bit. I don't want to do more than 12 of these. Wait a minute. 10, 11. Whoop. That's odd. Got a first. Oh, and we're actually going to do 13, right? Because. All right. Is that right? I think I'm actually might be one too many. Whatever, it doesn't matter. We're actually going to be doing one other thing. We needed to add a constant to the background, and the reason is that when these all get up close to the point that they're bigger than the screen, we have all this excess room, and we just don't want Natron constantly calculating, for the entire length of this animation, all 12 of these, or all 12 additional ones. We have one too many, just so you know. It should be 11. And then technically the 12th one, we have 12. Whoops, we have 12 if we include the first. So what we're going to do is take this B input off of the card 3D node and connect that to A13 or A14. It's saying, oh well, whatever it is. That's odd. Whatever. It's messy. It's just a little messy. We're just going to take 14, connect, 14, zoom in on that. Grab that, connect that there. Why are we connecting that there? All right, so let's go back to the beginning and look at it. Now, there's a few things we need to know. One sec. just aligning this so our project is nice and organized neatly, or mostly neatly. Actually, we want to pull that down a little bit, just like so. All right. So the reason we're doing this is because we want to put we need to put a constant in here, as I said. So we're going to put a constant, and this constant is going to go into the B input. And the reason we're doing that is because we can only, when we go into the bounding box for this merge node, we can only choose for the bounding box either the A input or the B input to use as our thing. We can't use any of the others. So we have to have the constant go into one of those two inputs. And it makes most sense to have it go into the background most input. And then by using that, what we can see is that when we go out to the end, we now are cropped in. And so it auto crops everything, the entire effect. All right. So now that we've got this set, what we actually want to do, we don't actually want this to be difference. But for right now, what we're going to do is we want it on difference so that we can actually set this up correctly, because we don't want this to be any more. Now, by the way, if we had increased the size, just so you guys are aware, I wanted to show you what this was originally supposed to look like and why I picked 12. If we go to our rotor node and select that ellipse, and we take the scale and we push this up to 3, is it going to actually do this correctly? This might take a little while. You'll notice that it's scaling it up quite a bit. And it didn't make it. Oh, well, that's okay. Which means it's probably not set up. Doesn't matter. Not going to worry about it. Maybe the key point here is that if we scale this up, we could scale this up and make it to the point that eventually this passes by the. Well, we don't want it to be more than three sizes. Anyway, going to keep it at 1. And the way we're going to actually solve this problem here. Oh, I know why it's not happening. Ugh. The reason is because we actually are offset. We want it to be at frame 25. There's where it would have been. If we had set this to a scale of 3 at frame 25, because we have a Catmull ROM interpolation. Now, if I set this to 3, I bet you it goes past the screen. Come on. Don't make me into a lawyer. All right, maybe it doesn't. I could be off. I might have needed one more. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. It was mainly to just talk about it, because what we're going to do here, what? I am going to chuck one more in here. Why not? Alt C. Why? Because we can. We're going to just chuck that in. So we get one more. It doesn't matter. It just makes it nice and even. And there we go. All right. So here we go. Pull that down. And it makes it easier to actually see. I think we were actually ending on a negative before, which might have been why it looked off. But yeah, 12 works fine. So what we want to do is we want to adjust this time offset based off of however many of these are until this outermost one. And we should, that's an important point. We should probably, for the sake of this, we're going to change this from difference to we're going to set this back. It should be divide. Technically, that's what we're ultimately going to be doing to this, is we're going to be dividing this. And let me just think about this. Yes, we want to divide it, and we want to divide it against 1, a value of 1. So actually I got these reversed. Oops. I think we want to take and put let me put the time offset there, take A, put A there. Is that right? Well, that's interesting. And it's definitely doing something. All right, 1 second. This is acting a bit odd to me. We're not going to worry about that looking funny at the moment. I think that's a refresh issue. We are doing A. Was? That is not what it's supposed to look like. Let's just go, you know what, oh wait, no. We're supposed to do plus. There we go. That's why. Plus, we want to add them all together. We want these to stack. I want them to constantly make each other brighter. It's not there that we want to do it. We want to add a merge after this. Right. So, why are we doing a merge? Because we want to actually take and put another constant here down below it. And by the way, that first one should not be white. That should be black there. This next one needs to be white. And that needs to be... I think we want to do this one, and then we set this to divide, I believe it is. Let me just... Yes, there we go. So by dividing everything, we add it all together, and then we divide it by 1. All right? And what that's going to do is at the beginning, we can see... now, we've got a problem here, which is this is obviously further back in time than we had started in the original one. So what we need to do is actually time offset this a bit more. So instead of -4, we're going to just keep bringing this back until this takes up basically our entire tunnel takes up the entire screen. 7, we can see there's a little bit of black over here. I want to take it 1 notch further. 8. All right, which means we don't actually need that last one. So I'm going to actually delete that one. And hopefully, let me make sure of this. 7. Let's bring this back. Yes, 7. That's interesting. All right, let's just disconnect that and then reconnect it because it's acting weird to me. Huh. It's got a weird artifact there. That's not correct. And I don't know why it's doing that. Let's look at that. Oh, Natron, don't make me... It could be a cache issue. Let's try going forward a frame. Cache. Let's clear all our caches. And then go back to our original. And then go back to the beginning. All right, well, it doesn't matter really because we're going to be taking this up to 8 anyhow. Instead of -7, we're going to take this to -8 because we want that to actually pass by, but it shouldn't be going to white. Or it should be going to white. It doesn't really matter. We don't, it doesn't matter too much because what we want is this type of gradation that's happening here, this tunnel-like effect. All right. All right. Not going to worry. So this is obviously, it's not, how do we get this to the next stage? Let's color this tunnel to look correct. This is giving us our fundamental shading, but we're going to do a multiply here. We're going to take and connect that to there. Should be selected to that. All right. And we're going to do another constant here. All right. And we're going to take this. Actually, for this one, we don't need a constant. We can just do a solid. No, I'll take it back. We're going to use a constant just to be on the safe side. For this constant, what we're going to do is change this color, the color here, to we're going to select red basically, and then we're going to change the green and the blue to 64, both of them to 64, and that's going to give us just a little bit of red on or a little bit of white on each, or by adding a little bit of white, excuse me, by adding a little bit of green and blue, it's going to make it so that it will slowly transition to lighter shades of pink as opposed to lighter shades of red, or which it looks weird if it's done with pure red. So all right, and then we need to change this from over to multiply. Whoops, we're not on the actual thing. Select our merge node, go to multiply. There we go, multiply, and we can see this looks pretty good for a fundamental or for a basic thing, but we also want to have the ability to adjust this a little bit, just in case the tones don't look correctly, look exactly right to anybody. What we're going to do is between here, we're going to add a grade node. We're going to hit G and add a grade node. And the reason we're doing this is so that we can take and adjust basically the start point and the end point. So if I take this black point and I bring it up a little bit, watch what happens. I can basically, as I shift this up, oh, we need to make sure we hit check our alpha for that. There we go. That's why it's not working. We bring it back down. There we go. We can see, so we can bring this up in, very small amounts. And so we can adjust our darkest point of a tunnel if we want to. So we can make our tunnel as long as we want. That's one of the things that it allows us to do. The other thing it allows us to do is we can actually increase our brightest point as well, if I'm not mistaken. Oh yeah, excuse me, take it in the opposite direction. We shrink this down and we can brighten up what our brightest point is, so we can make our brightest point, as bright as we want it to be. So that's the advantage. For right now, though, we're going to just keep it, we're going to keep it on 1 and 0. Just so it's not necessarily what we'll end up with, but we need to add other things in a little while. All right, so that gives us this. The problem is we don't have now a hole for our object to come through. And so this is going to get into for looking the end of the tunnel, so to speak. And of course, the end of the tunnel is going to be whatever our first thing is. But we want to do more. This is very boring. Each one of these, well, for right now, no, we're going to continue. We're going to start addressing the getting this whole nice and textured, so that these look interesting, because it will affect what we want to do after this. All right, so right here, I'm going to hit a period right after this transform, because this transform is mainly to use for getting our roto moved around, and the rest of the stuff is going to branch off of it. So the first thing we want to do, let's go back here and look at our card 3D. In fact, I'm going to move our card 3D up a little bit, because we're probably going to be putting some stuff after it as well. I'm just going to check my reference project, because I want to make sure I'm using the latest version of this. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create sort of an effect that there's like a gradient going around it. So it looks like there's light coming in this tunnel, and these things have like depth to them. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use a technique that we used in an earlier video. We're going to put a period over here and connect that dot node up over here, and we're going to put in two blurs. So we're going to hit tab, blur, and we're going to blur this. I believe I blurred it I think I did it 20. I'm going to just double check. Make sure, yes, 20. And so by blurring it 20, we're going to just go over here. We can see without it, blurring at 20. That gives it a nice soft edge. This is what we're going to be using. So the soft edge, what we're going to use now is our deviation orders, all right? And or derivation orders, which is right here, the derivation order. What we're going to actually do is, for this one, we're going to do, we're going to do X derivation, which is going to be here. This is going to be a horizontal. Now, it's important. What is currently, so people are aware, what we see here is not black and white. It is actually, it's actually not showing it even with this. All right. What we're may not realize here is that this is positive, but over here there's something equivalent, but in the negative values. And because it's clipping at 0, nothing below 0 is rendering. We're not even seeing it if we go and show the transparency. There's actually value there. And we're going to be using the inversion of this when we merge this over our thing. And this is going to create some issues. So it's very important that we know that what is currently white is actually going to be black in our final thing. And what's black is going to be white. What's negative is going to be positive. This is going to be, realize that we're looking at what is in theory going to be our shadows here. All right, so we're going to actually just copy this this blur node here, and we're going to switch it for the second one, so that instead of the derivation order or being 1 for the X, we're going to do it for the Y, and we're going to just look at that one, and we can see that that looks down. Now, as I said, the white parts are actually our shadows. So that means that this is actually wrong. This is actually in an inverted version of what we want, because we want the shadow to come from the top. But we are going to, so what we want to do here is we want to actually put an invert node here. So we're going to put in invert, invert, and at first we look at this and we say to ourselves, oh, that looks good. It looks like it did something right, except for, uh-oh, what's going on here? It's actually, you can see it's clipping off the top. That is one of the problems when you use the invert node. It changes the ROD. So we need to actually put, the reason it's changing the ROD is because it also, we can see down here, is doing this other thing down here, which is, well, we can see it's looking weird down here. We have this white line. What in the heck is going on? Well, if we actually look at it, what it's done is it's inverted our entire ROD, including we've got it set so that it also inverts our alpha channel. So because our ROD is the size of our shape, we don't have enough room for this, and it's also the derivation order is affecting the white of this. So we need to fix this, and the way we fix this, the first thing we need to do is we need to expand our ROD. So we're going to use one. I don't know that we've used this before, but if we type in ROD in here, we can see that there's an option down here called Adjust ROD. We click on that, and whoops, we don't want it after our blur. We want it before our blur. And we're going to take this blur connected up to that, and we'll view this. And what we're going to do is, I believe I brought it up. I'm going to bring it up. We want to make sure that it has plenty of room for the blur to occur, so that when that blur that happened at the bottom here, if we look at this, the blur happening down here, we want to make sure it's not clipping off the tip of or the base of our roto or this effect. So we need to make sure that when we increase this, we increase it a lot. So I'm going to increase it. Basically, we're doing it 20. I want to make sure it's well past it. So I'm going to put in make it 60. And by doing that, we can see that now the line is past that point. It also gives us a little bit of a black buffer, because we need to get rid of this line. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to actually bring this point back a little bit. We want to pull this blur back, and we're going to, we need to basically crop this out. And how are we going to crop this out? Well, we're going to actually take the original source here, and we're going to, if we go back here and look at this, let's hit fit. We can see this. What we're going to do is we're going to actually take this shape, or this, the shadow shape, plus this like line down here. We want to, we're going to merge this. Okay. So we hit merge, and then we're going to take in the A input, I believe, I want to make sure I did this right. We're going to connect the A input back to the original. All right. And then what we're going to tell it is that we want that B to appear inside of A. As soon as I get this, it's not snapping. I want this to snap for organizational. Oh, come on, Natron. Come on, Natron. Whatever. I can't worry about it. It's not snapping vertically. We take this over and we say we want this to be inside of the other one. Well, That works, except for we have a problem here. We can see that if we look at the blur before, we can see that up here, it's bigger than it is in the end, because this is actually the derivation order is causing this to exceed the boundaries of the original shape. So what we need to do here is we need to add one more thing, which is a dilate. And so we're going to go and add a dilate here. And we're going to take our dilate up, and we're going to up our dilate. We're going to just make it 20. Why? Because, well, we know our effect is 20. In fact, actually, I think I'm going to make it 30 just to be on the safe side. So we'll set it to 30, and that's one of the reasons we made the other 60, is so that at 30, which is beyond 20, it should house the entire shape. So now when we look at this, this is our shape, and we can see down here, there's even a funkiness happening down here that's not really pretty because of the dilate. But if we look at that and then we look at an original blur shape, we can see that it's definitely bigger than, or actually, let's look at it and then look at that. And yeah, it's definitely bigger than it by quite a bit. All right, hopefully this is going to work. Now that we've merged that in it, what we need to do then is we need to merge these two together. So let's fit our view, and we're going to just take that, and we're going to go put another merge node, and we can just merge the two together. And when we put the two together like that, by putting it over, it just merges the two. So we have this one merged with this one, and the two blend together, and we wind up with shadowy area, transitions to the shadowy area over on this side, or technically it's inverted of this. So what we see here is light is actually shadow, and down the other side we're going to wind up with light. All right, and we want this to actually occur before the card 3D. So I'm going to pull this card 3D down a little bit because I want to merge this in with our original before it. Now, here's the problem with this. We've blurred this. We blurred this node. We blurred this 20 times. That means the edge of this is soft. The problem is the original shape is not soft. So we actually want to, you know what? I'm just thinking about this. Oh, no. Right. We're going to copy this one of these blur nodes, but we need to just turn off our derivation order. So it's back to the, whoops, wait a minute. That was the X, I believe. Right. Yes. We want to select this one, our copy. We're going to put that in here. Okay. And the reason is because we want this shape to go from being hard like this to being soft, and it'll make sense. Let's merge this together. First of all, let's disable this for the moment, and we're going to actually merge this on top of these. And the reason that we're going to merge it on top of these is because we don't want it basically will make it look like it blends in. It'll blend in better. So what we're going to do is take our last merge node over here, select it, hit M again to create a merge, and then take A and connect it up to this blur. All right. And when we look at it, we can see that it's not looking right. Why is that not looking right? I think we actually have, let me just double check. Yes. So the part of the problems that we're running into is that we are we're hitting the edge of the shape, and this is white. We have something that's white, or a heart is white, but these are not white. These are kind of a darker shade. We want this to show up on top of it, and so what we need to do is actually just drop this down in value. So we're going to just take this down, and the amount we want to take it down, we want to take this down to basically 10% of its value. So we're going to drop this down to 0.1. And this is why we're having the original source come in here into this, is so that we can dim it using this as our original shape. And I just also want to double check one other thing, make sure everything's working. All right, everything is. Now, this is what I was talking about the hardness. You can see that the problem is remember I said our original shape is not the same size as this shading that we did. It actually stops here. This is the hard edge, and we can see that the shading goes in this way and goes out that way. We want to blend this external shading with the original, and that is what this blur does. We're just basically going to stack two identical blurs, and it will increase the brightness overall of that edge a bit. So if we re-enable this, we can see that indeed that blurs it together, and then we wind up with something that looks soft, and it looks like it's blended together. Now, we could have done this different. We could have not had it soft, but I like this. I felt it looked better and soft. If you don't want to, you can get rid of the blurs altogether, and it'll still work. Oh, well, not rid of the blurs. You can adjust it. Anyway, you could basically clip the entire thing. Anyway, so there we go. So this gives us our basic heart. Now, remember, this is going to get subtracted in the end result, which is part of the reason it's going to, remember, we're adding this all together. Notice that we dulled this down a lot. So this means that we've gone from white, where it was looking proper, to a gray scale, or to something that looks gray, which is why we have that grade node in there, is so that we can bring this back up later. All right, but we're not done yet. We have another thing that we need to do. We also need to take this, and we need to create a little bit of a buffer on the side, so that it looks like there's shadows coming in. All right, and so the way we're going to do that, and by the way, if we don't get through this all today, this is going to be a long one. I knew it was going to be long. If we don't get through this all today, I may continue this on Wednesday, and Wednesday on Facebook. All right, so we need to do another blur. Let me look. We're going to work from this blur here. What we're going to do is we're going to take this, because this is now our new outline, because this is what we want it to be. We want to take our new outline, and we want to blur this even more. So I'm going to go over here to the right, and I'm going to just hit tab, and I'm going to put blur, and hopefully a blur will that's not a blur. I'm going to put a blur node, connect that up to our other blur. This is the blur for this shape. I'm going to go to that one, and for that one I believe I set it to 400. Yes, we're going to set this blur to 400, and we can see that makes it big and soft. And the reason is we're going to actually be taking the inverse of this, or we're going to be subtracting this from something else. But just like the other thing where we had a problem with our ROD, we are going to have an ROD problem because we're doing an inverted, we're going to be subtracting this, which means our ROD is going to get clipped on the invert. So we actually, just like over here, so we actually have to add another one of these RODs. In fact, I'm just going to take that one and I'm going to copy it over here. So we take that ROD node, adjust ROD node, we're going to plop it in between these two, because we want it to happen before then. And we can see here, whoop, our ROD, wow, that looks, oh, it's Natron. No, Natron has crashed on us. It didn't like that. Well, all right. I'm gonna relaunch Natron. Hopefully we're gonna get that back. If not, I'm going to copy out from my other project. I'm going to copy up to that point out so that we can start off from there. Oh well, that ends Natron another. Well, as soon as it gets up, we'll see. So anyway, we're just running into a small problem. Reboot. Grab yourself a drink. Enjoy yourselves. Oh, and I see Mr. Thomas Morley has joined us in the chat. Hello, Thomas Morley. Good to see you. Is anybody else on? I don't see, my thing does not show me, or at least I don't know where. Does not tell me all the people. I really wish this live streaming showed. All right, here we go. So we want to pull this up. Yes, we want to reload it. As soon as it loads, I'm also going to readjust this so that it fits properly to OBS capture, and there we go. There's our ROD. Hopefully, you know what? Oh, it didn't like that. We're just gonna do it a different way. We're gonna put it here, and we're gonna just we're gonna select that node. We're gonna hit ROD, go down to the adjust ROD, add it in there, and there we go. And what we're gonna do for the ROD here, for this one, let me make sure. I think I adjusted that. I just set this one to 400, so it worked for the other one, it works for this one. So we hit that, and we can see that it's made it 400 pixels bigger than what it was. All right. So that will give us buffer so that when we subtract this from the next bit, that it works better. All right, so then what do we do? Right, we need to... I'll just need to make sure this is happening at the right point. It happens there. This is actually, we need to pull these down just a little bit because we need a merge node in between. What we're going to do here, I think, is we're going to merge. We're going to merge this. We're going to take this and we're going to merge this with the yes, we want to hit a period after this. Whoops, we want to reconnect it. We want to take this. Oh, yes, the reason we're going to do this is because we want to... Wait a minute. Am I doing that right? Oh, yes. We want... one of the big problems that we face is when we subtract this, we want this to subtract the entirety of the heart in addition to our this blur shape. Okay, this entire thing now needs to be subtracted from something that we're going to use, that we're going to be superimposing over. All right, so that this will then superimpose on top of it, or I should say this will superimpose on top of it. So this is what our subtraction mask looks like. We have a new blur, which is going to, this is going to set up the edge gradients, and then this blurred heart is going to get added on top of it, like so. So we go from there to there, and then what we're going to do is, before we're actually going to be bringing this down in a separate branch. I think, let me just think about this. No, we want to, I think we actually, this is the one, let me make sure. Yes, right now, yeah, we're going to, all right, at this point, we need to, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. Yes, we want to do our card 3D at this point, right? Wait a minute, something feels off. I just need to make sure I'm doing this correctly because, right, we don't want this to scale. So we're going to create, what we're doing, what we're going to be doing right now is we're creating a mask. And the problem is that by having all that extra data there, when we scale it up, it would become really big. And especially if we were doing this at 3 times the size. So what I wanted to do to minimize the impact on Natron when we're doing all these duplications and so forth, to minimize, you know, a bunch of basically almost 8K video or images, I decided that I wanted to crop everything in. It may not matter as much, but for people with lower memory systems, this is important to do. All right, so what we're going to do, because we're doing this, it means that we have to do the next part after the transformation of the card 3D. So that means we need to use this card 3D movement beforehand. So we're going to copy this. So we're going to hit Alt and K on this card 3D. And that did not work for some reason. Let's try that again. Alt K. There we go. There's our clone. We're going to just bring that over here. And we're actually going to need a second one of these in a little bit, but that's all right. We're good here. We're going to connect this in here. We're going to look at this. All right, so now we're going to be doing our transformations. And this is what's going to actually, move this through space. But we can see that our what's happening here, this effect, this is what we have. And we want to subtract this from basically white, or actually it's not going to be white. It's going to be, I think we're going to do gray. All right. So we do that, and then we want to, and by the way, I'm constantly shuffling things around. I'm zoomed in so that we can see. So this is basically parallel with the card 3D. And by the way, I'm also going to throw out there, if you ever go to do a render, you want to do a disk cache frame hold at these points, because we're not going to be changing anything between this point and the card 3D. But for the purposes of our video, to keep this shorter, we're not going to be doing our disk cache. But you want to put the disk cache between here and here and here and here. And there's a few other places we'd put disk caches as well. In fact, we're going to drop our resolution down to 1/8 so that this speeds up a bit for the next parts, because we don't know how long this is going to take. All right, so we have a card 3D. We're going to now we're going to do we're going to put a constant out here off to the right. So we're going to hit tab, constant, there we go. And we're going to merge that, and we're going to merge that over this. And what we're going to do, we're going to not merge it over. What we're going to do is take this, and we're going to subtract this. All right, we're going to say from. So we're going to subtract the one from the other. Well, the problem is the constant is currently black. Well, we want this constant to be 10% gray, I believe. Let me just double check and make sure. Yes, 10% gray. And you say, well, that looks a little funny. And oh yes, I want to point out, let's go back, take this off for a second so that we can see. I want to show what that, what this adjust ROD. We can see the edge here, that this is creating this funky edge. And if we disable this ROD, we can see there's the clipping that I was talking about. We can see that if we didn't have it, we would have clipped it and it would have looked funny. So we increase the ROD to bring it back, and so that we wind up with something that looks heart-like. Now, this isn't a perfect heart because we're blurred away from it. At this point, this is the blurred shadowy areas that we're creating. All right, so we've done our subtraction. Now what we want to do is take the result of this result, by the way, and the reason we set this constant to 0.1 is so that it matches our card 3D over here. We want these both to have the same value, and we know that this value is 0.1. We can see it on our view over here. Down here it says 0.1, and over here we look at this and we scrub over here, and well, there we go. Now it's 0.1 over here. All right, so it really doesn't matter which one of these we merge together first. It looks like what I did here, because this constant, by the way, is at the default resolution, which is HD. That means we can use this as to minimize our ROD area. So all we have to do is take this from node, and we can just tell it that we want to use the bounding box of B. And then that means when we get out past 100, we can see that we no longer have all that excess information, which means none of these time offsets are actually going to use it either. And so what we can do now is merge that with the card 3D over here and link that in right there. And so when we look at this, hopefully, oh yes, we got to go back to the beginning because that's where it is. And hopefully, if everything worked right, why am I not seeing? Uh-oh. Oh, I think I had to clamp this. Clamp. because the problem is that when we did the math, when we did we set the heart value to a negative value number, so we actually have to clamp it first. Otherwise, the negative, what we're subtracting from the white, the heart that we subtract from it, ends up subtracting a big hole in it, and we wind up with we don't wind up with a perfect image. We need to subtract it and then black it out so that it merges over properly. We wind up with pure black hole. Otherwise, let me try and show what this would do. This should make me a liar, Natron. Oh, it was, well, all right, that doesn't work. Apparently I fixed that. I was having a problem where it was subtracting, and the clamp node was not working for me for some reason. Here, I recommend leaving this in just in case. It's a safety precaution. It basically, well, anyway, it's all good. We're all good. Just leave it in. Just trust in me for right now. It's there for, it serves the purpose of countering the thing to guarantee that this clamps to the proper spot. All right. Anyway. So here we go. Here's our final image. This is what our final thing is going to be going into those, okay? So, and we're going to be taking that and we're going to be adding it together until we wind up with this in the plus node. So when we go to our plus, this might take a bit because it has to draw this all out, and it's going to take a little, oh, we didn't turn on our 8. Oh, this is going to be a bit painful. I'm sorry, I meant to have the 8, but I went back to show you guys what was going on. So we just have to wait a bit for all of those nodes to draw. So we can see, ooh, it looks a little funky here. Whoa. That's just a render glitch. Don't worry about it. It won't actually affect... let's fit that to the window. That won't actually affect it in the end. Don't worry. Remember the whole Natron drawing the things wrong. Well, it's missed a corner. You can see that it just missed a corner. Don't worry that it's not looking right, but it is going to throw off our colors, that means, in here. So here we can see now that what used to be our tunnel and used to be this nice grayscale is no longer a nice grayscale anymore. And this could actually cause a problem here. So I'm going to actually have to derive this from my other project because I've got the value on my grade. We want to set this grade to fix the black value or the dark value so that this all multiplies together and gives us the proper. We can see our tunnel doesn't look right. It looks washed out and desaturated. And that's because we need to adjust this. And what we need to do is bring up, here, let's pop back here. If we look at this and hover over this, it says that our value here is 0.6667. So what that means is that we want to take our black value, and right here we want to just put in 0.666667. And by doing that, we see, whoa, it looks weird. Don't worry about it. That weirdness is because it's it's not perfect, but we can, well, let's just make this 0.6 just to be on the safe side. Don't worry about that little center point. And don't worry about those. You know what? We're going to just, for the moment, we're going to just, the only way to properly do this is to break off of it. Let's hit fit that. Let's clear our caches, clear all caches, and that, which means Natron's going to have to rebuild it. And there we go. All right. So now we have it working. All right, so this is what we have. This is what it looks like. And as you can see, it's no longer, whoops, if we select this, it's no longer blue, it's gray, and then pink. All right, so this is our tunnel. This is basically our tunnel. Actually, I'm looking at it, and it looks a little bit, it actually looks really off on over here, on this part over here. So, it's possible we need to, let me just double check that from on my other one, because mine didn't come out that dark. And so that's making me think that we have something. It's possible did I? Oh, it's saying it's there. Well, you know what? Oh, wait a minute. I think you know what? I've got no idea. I think what we need to do. Well, we're not going to worry. This is we're. Well, am worried. This is not giving us the correct effect here. This should not be looking this harsh. I was thinking this was looking weird over here. Let me just double check on my other one just to make sure it doesn't look weird on that one. My other project might crash on me. This is taking a bit. Oh, all right. Oh, yep, my other one just died. Crud. My reference project. I need to bring that back up just to make sure that we have it. Hopefully, it will reset itself. Give me a moment, another time to take a nice break and have a drink. This is a long project. Sorry, because this is there's a lot to it, and we're not there yet. All right. Well, that is loading. No, I don't want to risk. I'm wondering if we might want to clamp Natron here. I'm gonna just pop back to me. Here we go. I'm just gonna sit here for a few minutes and talk to you while I get this all set up. Let's. Oh, it didn't. Oh, you didn't. Oh, there we go. Yes, I want to. Hopefully my project sets up correctly and everything. Good. It reset to its where it was supposed to. Let me just. All right. Let me pop back over to Natron here, and whoops. Wait a minute. We want Natron and me. There we go. All right. So here we go. So I'm just going to check this quick and make sure. Oh, I know. Yeah, that's right. And so we go here and we have that and there. And no, it's definitely looking very different on mine. I've got a different result. I'm double checking and making sure, seeing what I might have done different. 20. Oh, yeah. Adjusted the pixel depth. Or 3. 400. Oh, I'll hate it. Natron just earned itself because this is definitely a boom moment. As I say, I knew this one was going to be full of booms. All right, that's the same. All right. Oh, my I just realized my project was bleeded in here. All right. Well, that's not good. I need to adjust that up a little bit. All right. Sorry. Let's see. That's that. All right. We do that. Should be this merge right here, and that is the same. Alpha. Everything's looking good. I'll tell you, I don't know what is causing the problem. Oh, wait a minute. From, it says 0.16 there. Wait a minute. Oh, ah, there's the problem. All right. So apparently I dropped this down to 0.16. Huh. Let's see. For some reason, that's why. There we go. All right. There was a step that we missed. All right. So, yes, we saw how. All right. Let's actually keep the 8 on. Let's turn this back for a minute so we can see this. And we're going to go back up to about 84, frame 84. So it's nice and big. There we go. All right. Yes. Right. So we had this set to 1. And when we had it at, let's bring it back to there. All right. When it's 1, it creates this big, huge, gaping hole. But what we want it to be is we don't want this to be a gaping hole. We want this to look heart-shaped, because I'm looking at my other one and I was like, I thought it looked heart-shaped. But we need the other, and that's why we actually have that other merge over happening, is because that ensures that it stays, it zeroes this out to negative value. So, so if we put this 0.16 according to this, there we go. Now we can see. All right, now if we disable this, we can see that's the blur, and by having the black, we get the other merged on top of it. So that fixes the roll off. That's why I had it in there. There we go. Then we go over here and we look at it, and now it looks like I expected, where we get the nice soft edge, and we can see the blacks adding in here, which will be the reverse because this is a negative. And then we go back over here to our final thing. Let's look at our divide, which, by the way, let's focus on that. And we're seeing it, and we're going to hit 8. And hopefully Natron does this properly. That didn't give us an issue, so here we go. Then we go to the grade to grade it down. And by the way, we should double check it now, because again, this is a different value than we had. All right, no, it is still 0.667. So then we go to the grade, which should grade it down. And we, by the way, we want to go back to the beginning. So this is what our final thing looks like, our tunnel, and then this is what our final tunnel looks like. And now we can see the nice edge grading here. Now, because we did this looks a little bit different in size. It looks like our tunnel is much longer than it was in the final version of my version, and that is because we're using a smaller image, so it looks like the end of the tunnel is further back. That's just the way it's going to be. We can adjust that. That means we'd have to change things on this, and I didn't want to change the actual animation values, but it makes it look like there's a bigger difference. It's not a big deal. It's just however big your initial roto is going to be is going to impact how close these hearts are going to look to one another. All right. It shouldn't impact anything other than that. That's about the only thing it's going to change. All right, so now we don't have a hole in the center or at the end of our tunnel, so we need that. So how do we get our tunnel hole? Well, we need one more point. We're going to put a point up here above this blur node. All right, we have the blur node that makes our that blurs it out just ever so slightly from our original shape, and we're going to just connect a dot node there. We're going to hit another dot node, and we're going to pull this off to the side over here a little bit, and a little bit, maybe a little further. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take this constant and shift it down below it, just because we don't need it right there. All right, and then we can pull this in a little bit, and then we're going to hit a period and bring this down here. And so this is going to be used for a whole bunch of extra stuff. So the first thing we are going to do, oh yes, we need to run it through a Card 3D. So we have our Card 3D here. We need to obviously go connect it to a Card 3D. So we're going to select this Card 3D, this clone of the Card 3D, and we're just going to hit Alt-C to copy it. And we're going to connect that in there, and we can just put that there. Actually, we can put it right down below so we can see it. And then we're going to hit a period off of that Card 3D, and we'll keep going down. And now we need, that's what that's going to do. What we're doing is we're making a traveling mask for this. And The reason we're doing a traveling mask is because we need to we want to make a hole for our the end of the tunnel to come back in, and so this is going to be our hole, or ultimately our hole. So we're going to come back down here to our color node here, and we're going to add a shuffle node at this point. Okay. And the reason we're doing a shuffle node is because we're going to take and we're going to add the blurred alpha channel to this shuffle node, like so. But I believe we may want to take the invert of it. And I just want to double check that we take the inversion of it. Wait a minute. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Down here. On Card 3D. Oh, wait, no. Ah, I know what we do. All right, yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a constant over here. We'll just take this constant over here. We're going to copy it over here. Make this constant. We'll reset this constant to its defaults. And I believe I'll just set it to 1. Right. So we set it to 1. All right. And then I take this not constant. Yes, constant. Yes, we want a constant. Excuse me. And then we're gonna do a merge node off of this constant. Take our other, let's take a look at what we got. So we have white, and then we're going to plug it in. So we take the original and connect it into it. And then we're going to take this and we're going to tell this one we want to do a from. And this is going to, and we want to make sure that the from is affecting the mask. All right. So the reason we're doing that is we're subtracting the original blur, which is a value, should hopefully have a value of 1. And we're subtracting it from it. Okay, so if we go up here, let's take a look. It was 1 here, and we're basically inverting this, but we're not inverting it. We're subtracting it from 1, because if we just inverted it, remember, if we had just inverted that, we would have wound up with a basically a square in the middle of our screen. Here, in fact, let me just show you what I mean. If we just do an invert, I-N-V-E-R-T, invert, there we go. If we connect an invert in here, just to show you why we didn't use an invert, notice our invert, because it's taking our original bounding box and it's subtracting it from it, and we don't want just the bounding box of a heart. We want to have we want this to be white. We want a alpha channel that is the entire image, not just the inverted of our thing. So what I had to do is I had to take our constant, and then we had to subtract our hearts, the hearts alpha channel from it, because all we're using this for is the alpha channel. And so then we connect that into our shuffle node, and what we'll wind up with now, oh yes, we're not going to see it at this point, because the problem is that our shuffle node is it's treating it as this is now an unpre-multiplied image, and in order for us to see it in Natron, we actually have to pre-multiply it. And unfortunately, the shuffle node, to my knowledge, shifting this to pre-multiplied doesn't actually work inside of the or shifting it so that it wasn't unpre-multiplied doesn't actually function inside of Natron. Oh, wait a minute. We need to, I'm sorry. First, let's go here. All right, let's see. Hold on. There we go. All right, we're looking at the actual thing. And if we switch this to pre-multiplied, see, it doesn't actually do anything. We can say opaque. This on the shuffle node, this doesn't actually do anything. So in order for us to actually see this, what we actually have to do is put a pre-mult node on here. So we're going to hit tab, type in pre-mult, and we go pre-multiplied. And so now we've told it that it's pre-multiplied alpha channel, and now we have a black hole there where we're supposed to. But we have a problem here, and we're probably going to go back. We're going to zoom in all the way close to the end, and we're going to actually have to turn off the low res for a minute. because if we look at the edge, we have this nice glowy edge here. And this is going to take a minute because it has to render everything. But what's happening is that I'm hoping it's going to redraw it correctly. There we go. All right. So we can see that this has a glowy edge, but this doesn't, because it is not a, it's not pulled in, or it's not remember, just like the other things, when we did it on the original, when we made the derivation orders to create these highlights, the actual original shape goes halfway through. So we've cut off basically half of the shape here. So we're getting just the slightest hint of the actual thing. So what we actually want to do here is we want to add an erode in here. So we're going to do an erode. So we hit tab and we type in we select this dot node above, before where we're subtracting it, and we're going to type in, we hit that, select that, and type in erode, not an erode smooth, an erode. Make sure you select the erode node, and I believe I'll set it to 5. And we should be able, and we want to do it to both axes, so we can hit this 2. Oh, come on. Fine. We'll hit 5 and 5. And this might take it a minute to update. I'm keeping it at a high resolution for the moment. And hopefully we will see soon, the nice soft edge there come back in. Now, the reason it's 5 pixels is because it's, we're trying to just get the hint of it, more of it. The problem is it's actually going to start fading to another color, to a dark color. But I'm not worried about that, because we're going to be putting something very light behind it. But, you know, it doesn't look bad either way. It's just it reveals more of the lightness back here. This is a technicality. We could have done this earlier on, but then it would have created other issues when we went to do the divides. It would have fudged up our alpha channel, and I didn't want to have to deal with it. So we're doing it now properly, or sort of sloppily, but it works, and it's good enough for our needs. So we're going to fit this and let it redraw. Once it's redrawn, there we go. Then what we're going to do is drop this back to 1/8 of its value and go back to the beginning. So here we go. This is a final tunnel. This is what the tunnel looks like. And we're only halfway through. So what I think I'm going to do is we're going to call this part the first half, because we're 1 hour and 37 minutes into this, and just to make this part of the entire thing. And we can see this works. This works perfectly fine. We can render it out. In fact, it's rendering fast enough. You know what? We're going to drop it down to, let's take it to 1/16 of its value. This is going to look really crummy, but it'll give us at least a gist of what's going on. So we can see, whoa, oh my goodness. No, okay. All right, that's Natron just basically having refresh issues. That's only occurring because we're looking at it at 1/16 of its value. Don't worry about it. All right, we're not going to actually look at it. So we've created basically the first half. So what we would do at this point is we need to bring this in. Let's just, for the sake of arguments, just say that we need something, an actual background here. So we're going to actually, for this point, we're going to do a solid. And this is where we're going to be picking up, is we're going to take this on the next episode. We're going to take this, plug that in there, like so. And just to prove that this solid's back here, we're going to make it a sky blue for the moment, even though we're going to send it back. So there's our blue in the background, so that we can see that's where our actual image is going to come in. So all that just to create this funky little tunnel. All right. And so we can actually focus. Because we're going to be focusing on the other, what I'm going to do is go over here, and we can actually take this back to, we can take it off. We can actually shift it back to regular, and we're going to set it to its default, which is black, and this is where we're going to pick up on the next episode. So I will save this and as live version, and we will pick this up. And holy smokes, this is a really long episode, but all right. Oh yes, wait, we want to show our goal for today was this. And I'm not going to run it multiple times. You get enough of that. But we saw it. We did it, or we did at least the tunnel part of it. A little bit, or a variant thereof. So thanks for watching, and keep on Natroning.